This is a podcast from Rover.
Is your child's anxiety getting in the way of everyday life? Parenting Place offers a self-guided online course designed to give you tools to better support your child through big worries and fears. To find out more, visit parentingplace.nz/anxiety. Welcome to Parents We've Met, where we share in the magic and mess of parenting. Today on the couch, we are joined by Lucy Spoors, who I'd go as far to say is a bit of a New Zealand hero. She had all of New Zealand, well, a whole lot of New Zealand, maybe that's a little bit of an overstatement, a lot of New Zealand cheering her on as she represented us in rowing at the Paris Olympics, which had her walking away with gold. Hey, welcome, Lucy. Such a treat to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be here. Thanks.
It's been a huge couple of years for you, and there's so much to chat about. But to kick things off, we always love to start with a bit of an introduction to who is in your family.
Yes, so my family right now, which I need to get used to saying, is my husband, Brook, who we got married last week, and my wee son, Rupert, who's just also turned 2 last week.
Very cute.
So lovely. It does sound like this has been quite a month for you with birthdays and weddings. But with a wedding and marriage of 13 days, how is marriage going?
Well, it's going amazing, but it was beforehand too. You know, like for us, we've had such a long-standing commitment to each other, you know, for a long time, even before Rupert was born. And for us, it was sort of just a matter of when we could fit in the party, really.
Was it a big party?
Yeah, it was awesome. I don't take for granted how lucky I felt to be able to get all our special people in one place. And I guess over the last couple of years, I have felt so busy, and sometimes, you know, your social side and your commitment to your friends and all that sort of thing is what falls to the wayside a little bit. So to be able to have everyone together for one night was the thing that I just found so amazing.
Lucy, I so enjoyed watching you race at the Olympics. I actually think I may have shed a tear or two. We'd never met, but just seeing your family cheering you on, seeing your huge grin at the end, and then as you're walking to go to the award ceremony and to get your medal, seeing you get your boy down and have a cuddle, it was just so beautiful. You've had a whole bunch of months now to rest and reflect. Looking back on that time now, what stands out to you, you know, looking at it differently now and having that time that the dust has settled a little bit?
Definitely that particular moment of getting Rupert down from the stands does still stand out to me, because I guess what people don't know is that we'd been on tour with the rowing team for a couple of months. Well, about 8 weeks with our parents in tow as well. But then we always said that right before the games, when we went into what was our smaller village, it was a hotel with the rowing team in a couple of other countries, sort of closer to the venue. That was when we felt that maybe we should leave the kids with our parents. So both Brooke, and this is going to get confusing, I need to clarify, my rowing partner is also Brooke. So 2 Brookes, rowing partner Brooke and her parents also went into an Airbnb with her daughter Kira, my parents into an Airbnb with Rupert. And we had, I think it was 10 or 12 days in the hotel preparing, I guess, for the final week. And we were actually calling it our hotel retreat, because it was the first time that we'd been without the kids, and everybody else on rowing tour gets used to hotel living, and by the time they get to the games they're a bit sick of it. And we were straight in there to having our beds made and going down to the buffet meals thinking this is a retreat. But it also was just, it made it very real, because it was not seeing the kids. It was, we're here to do a job. And I think Mum brought Rupert to the hotel once, and I thought I was maybe going to want to see him more in that last 2 weeks, but actually I was just so focused, I guess, on the job at hand that I almost didn't need that. And then the second the race was over, it was like, okay, where is he? And it's funny how quickly your mum brain switches on. And I actually remember celebrating and thinking, it is so hot, I hope he's got sunblock on. I could see him standing on the podium for that medal ceremony. I could spot him with my partner in the crowd, and I knew that he had no idea what was going on, but just to have him there after being at an Olympics in Tokyo where we had no family at all was so special to me. And I guess that moment that you saw was us leaving the dais and Brooke and I had this second of thinking, we need to try and see the kids. We haven't seen them in 2 weeks. And we said to this woman, excuse me, that's our children over there. Can we quickly go and say hello? And the whole Olympic podium ceremony race schedule is very tight, is what I learned. And everything's very to schedule. And we'd had about 3 minutes to put on our uniform before the music starts. And then you sort of get ushered off. And she sort of said, no, like, we're on the time. You've got 40 seconds to get off. And we were like, oh, they're our kids. And we were pointing at them. And she said, no, down to 30 seconds now. And I think Brooke said, they're our babies. And she said, I'm a mum, go quick. So that moment, like, it was only brief and we were trying to be quick, but I'm so happy I had it because we actually didn't see the kids for the rest of that day. Like, it was such a whirlwind, and it was only 30 seconds, but it was the 30 seconds that I needed in that moment.
It would have been so hard to hand, like, okay, 3 seconds and back,
Yeah,
like,
and they both sort of lost it. Like, I think that was the first time that they both also acknowledged they hadn't seen us for a while, and they're in the middle of hundreds of thousands of people screaming. Like, it's odd for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was hard, but it was special.
So beautiful to get that whole picture now. Like, there's even more of a weight to it.
Being able to do what you've done, Lucy, you must have been comfortable with the support that your parents provided.
That's, an interesting question, because getting comfortable with it is one thing, and, needing help and being able to ask for it. And I just feel so thankful and so grateful to Mum, because from the start I felt so safe leaving Rupert, and I still was in the early days, I guess, dealing with the mum guilt of, I think the nature of high performance sport is quite a selfish thing. And there were times in the early days when I thought, this definitely doesn't feel right. Like, when he's so small, to walk out the door and to get on the water for what, to me, it's not a hobby, but it feels like a hobby to just go out and be fit. And I was aware I was rowing up the lake for 12K without a cell phone, without cell phone reception. There were certain elements of it that felt really selfish. And I think if it hadn't been Mum, I might have struggled with that more. And Mum's commitment to me and Brooke and Rupert over the last 2 years has been astounding, I guess. And I definitely couldn't have done it without her. So she's getting a break now. While I'm getting a break, she's getting a break. And she said she doesn't want to do the long haul flights ever again.
That's really precious, yeah. And I think with a lovely relationship with your mum like that, and knowing that he's so loved and adored and being cared for, would have helped the times away. You
don't realise how much you parent like your own mother. And I almost felt, in a way, in the early times of Rupert's life, that I was almost more comfortable having him with Mum, like, she was my answer for everything. Like, nothing Mum could have done with Rupert would have been wrong. Like, I was turning to her at every point. So she was always my safe person for him.
It's beautiful synergy there. After the win, you went and kind of regrouped in Italy. Is that right? So how was that time with the family?
Well, that was interesting. That was after the games. We came home. I think we were only at home for 4 weeks, and then I'd committed to going back over to Italy for this coastal rowing trip. And my husband was coaching the New Zealand junior coastal team, so he was always going to be there. So I thought it made sense for me to go again. And we debated leaving Mum and Rupert at home for this World Champs, and I gave Mum the option, and at the time she said, no, I think I'd rather come back to Italy than have him at home. So we jumped back on a plane 4 weeks after. The flight over was awful, as it had been on the way home. He was just at that age where he was so active. He just didn't want to sit still. He couldn't understand it. I couldn't explain it to him. The flights, we had a few delays. I think we ended up not even leaving Auckland Airport until like 1 a.m. and he hadn't slept. He was still, like, there was just so many things that went wrong about it. On the way over, I started feeling really unwell, caught COVID either on the plane or just before. So I was also leaning to Mum thinking, I'm feeling really crap here and I haven't slept in so long. So by the time we got there, I actually said to Mum, I can acknowledge I've made a huge mistake. Like, we probably shouldn't have come. And I feel so bad that I've dragged you back to the other side of the world after having only been home for 3 weeks. But it actually turned out great, and the Coastal World Champs was such a fun thing to be a part of, and it was actually really good for me, I think, to be back out on the water, on the sea. And Mum and I had 3 or 4 days afterwards, which was just us and Rupert, and we went to Portofino and got a little bit of a holiday. And we still had to end it with the trip home, which
was it just as bad, or
it was just he was just at that age. All of them this year were just really bad.
Yeah, I still remember flying with my boy, and it was just the two of us, and I had him in the front pack walking up and down, and people were eating, so that's why I was walking, because he was trying to grab everyone's meals next to us because you're all tight. And as we were walking, he kicked a glass of white wine on one side and a glass of red wine on the other side, and I just wanted to be swallowed up by the world. I was like, oh, so I can totally empathise with that. Being an Olympian, it's opened doors, like being an ambassador for Mazda and having use of one of their new vehicles I saw. What other perks have you encountered, or maybe some weird freebies that you've scored along the way?
Well, the car is definitely the most amazing thing right now. Rupert's loving the car. He loves the sunroof opens right up, and he's insistent that I open shut the sunroof so we can look for planes. But yeah, it's such a comfortable drive for us right now, so I'm loving the car. But honestly, getting home, I couldn't pinpoint any other individual perk other than probably what I've really enjoyed is just my interaction with people. And like you say, the people that I've met that have said like, oh my gosh, I was screaming on my couch. And being able to laugh about that with, the people that were screaming, crying, that's been really unforgettable for me. And it's still going on, which I guess I'm so humbled by, I'm astounded by.
Very cool.
It was so good watching. So your rowing partner Brooke and yourself got labelled super mums at the Olympics. And how did that sit with you guys, as you both were quick to say that you were just mums doing your job?
Yeah, I think Brooke and I have had a lot of discussion about that, because we, in becoming mums, have learnt what it is to be a mum, and we've navigated it together. And being a mum is the hard part of our day sometimes. Being a mum is the bit that's the extra challenge, and I've been able to share that with her, and to have someone to debrief it with is exactly what I've needed. And like I said, rowing feels, because it's what we know and it's because it's what we've always done, and I've done it for over 10 years now, that's the bit that is my autopilot. That's the bit that to me just is my job. So for me, going rowing has been about just staying me and doing what I know. And then being the mum has been the extra challenge. And yes, we're aware that it's physical, and I guess it's not a normal job for some people, but at the end of the day, it is still our job. And so many mums go back to work, and that's not different to what we did. You're still dealing with having to leave your child, having to work out how the day is going to go, the juggle, what happens when you get home, the ships in the night with your husband. All the small dynamics of going back to work have been the same for us. And the only difference, I guess, is that our job requires us to be at a physical level that I guess not a lot of people are at.
Your sister got a medal at the Olympics as well in rowing. So I'm wondering, did your parents steer you guys in that direction, into that sport? Is that how it came about?
I think my grandfather rowed when he was younger, but we didn't work that out until, I guess, only recently. But we didn't have a rowing background in our family that I otherwise knew about. I guess my sisters probably got into rowing because I was rowing at Christchurch Girls High School, and I essentially just got shoulder tapped for being tall, and they said you should come down to Kerrs Reach, which is where all the rowing goes on in Christchurch. And it wasn't what I thought, but I loved it. And very quickly I was loving going down to Ruataniwha on camps with 40 other girls. How fun. And you stay the whole weekend and you're all in bunk beds. And my mum straight away got involved. She was sort of camp mum, regatta manager, doing all the helpful things. So my younger sisters, who are twins, I guess by default, were spending a lot of weekends away. So I guess that's how they got the rowing bug, is that they just watched me do it through high school and they watched me love it. But mum and dad never pushed us. I mean, we all played all sports as kids, swimming, netball, basketball. We all tried everything. We never felt pushed into any direction, but mum definitely instilled in me that part of sport was being a good teammate. So when you sign up to something, you do a good job for your teammates and you complete the job. So I think that's what rowing, in the big boats gave me, was that I had teammates and I was going to show up for them the whole season and do the best I could.
That's great. I had listened to an interview with your mum just after the races, and she was so cute how she was stressing the point that she was equally proud of you and your sister. It was so lovely. And, gold, bronze, it's a medal, I'm proud equally, which had me smiling because I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old and I'm always trying to keep things equal with the praise. And I thought, gosh, even as, adult children, you're still doing that. It's pretty amazing.
And I think it's because, she's so invested in both of our journey, right? That, she knows all the behind the scenes, and both of those medals, for her, she's seen the lead into both of them and she knew how special they both were. So, yeah, I think they equally meant as much to her.
Do you tease her though and go, Mum, gold, come on, Mum?
I don't, but Phoebe's twin, Grace, who is the one in the States, she's been teased a little bit, I think, about being the one that doesn't have one.
Oh, the pressure.
Yeah.
Little sister rivalry, that's a bit of fun.
Love it. So your mum's been amazing in supporting you and helping out with Rupert, and probably the encouragement and the investment. Were there some other people in the village? Was it extended to other athletes as well?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so grateful to even talk about the village. I feel like there's so many layers, because I feel like I could not have achieved this without all the people that helped me. And yes, mum and dad and my husband, Brook, but then, as soon as you go down to rowing, that village only gets wider. My best friend, Emma Twigg, she had her son 9 months earlier, so I guess I got to watch her evolve and, see how that parenting journey whilst rowing was unfolding for her. And then rowing partner Brooke, had her daughter 3 months ahead of me. So we very quickly, I guess, had a lot of easy ways for me to share information. And then we had the whole wider rowing team, which I didn't know how it was going to go, bringing a child into that environment, because in my time I hadn't really seen it done until Tommy started coming down with Emma. So I didn't really know how the integration of that was going to work, but very quickly I was made to feel really comfortable with it. And that's, again, what I'm really thankful for. I have memories of breastfeeding Rupert in the gym, and I want to say it took me a little bit, when you've got also young boys walking around, I was thinking, is this right? If someone walks around the corner, should I not be here? And I never felt like that was abnormal. Our coaching team is predominantly male. All of them were so welcoming. They all have engaged with Rupert all along the way. It's been amazing, actually, to see the way the young boys embrace the children. And Brooke and I have another memory of travelling, and one of the young boys said, do you want me to put Kira to sleep in the front pack? And, took her for a walk around the airport. And I also remember being in Belgium, and I was sitting outside at second breakfast after training, hooking into some oats, and I watched Rupert run inside where all the other athletes were, where all the action was, and he went honing across the floor and basically ran into right smack bang into the corner of the table, right in his forehead, and it just put him straight on his back. And straight away, one of the young boys just jumped up, scooped him up, brought him outside to me, and just watching how quickly those young boys were so attentive to him, it was really special. Yeah.
And it goes both ways too, because people love an interaction with a child, and you are providing a lovely invitation to join the team, kind of
and
help along.
I guess it has been a funny exercise, because in an environment that can often be really tense, and you've got people that are being closely watched, and at certain points of the season, times can pressure is high, intensity is high, especially in Olympic gear. I think one of the coaches worded it like it's hard to be pissed off when you've got a 1-year-old running around, and suddenly he walks in and everybody's trying to make him laugh. And I think, there's an element of the kids that has been really cool for the environment. And I was always really conscious of if Rupert is going to come on tour with me, I never wanted him to be a distraction from the team. And there were certain things that, if you're going to be in the hotel, it would be my worst nightmare if he cried all night and kept someone in a room next door awake. So we were really conscious of making sure that they weren't a distraction, but at the same time, in evolving that, I think in a way they've become an addition to the culture too.
He's earned his keep.
Well, a bit like a circuit breaker, that when there is high tension, you often need somebody to break that tension, and who better than a little toddler?
I guess is also the reward that he's given me for the last 2 years leading into the Olympics. Like he has been the perspective for me, and in a high pressure cooker situation when previous me for Tokyo Olympics would have closed up, only thought about myself, only thought about the 1%ers. This is what I need to do to win. You can't do that when he has to come first, and when he's sick or falls over or the day just doesn't go like how I thought it was going to go. He's given me that perspective of what it means to, I guess, not put my job first.
Before he arrived, when you were pregnant, I saw a photo of you on Instagram with a bucket, watery eyes, having a rough time with morning sickness, but you were still having to train during the pregnancy. I mean, I remember being pregnant with my first boy and hiding under my desk at work. Like, how the heck did you get through that?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that on the way up here because I didn't have to do it. And I'm not sure I would do it again. I was so sick through my whole pregnancy, from start to finish. I remember the first day I vomited thinking, awesome, this is cool. I'd had a pregnancy that I'd lost at 8 weeks a couple of months prior. So I remember waking up and vomiting thinking, this is going good. And then the next day I sort of vomited twice. And then the next day I vomited 3 times. And by only 6 weeks, I was vomiting, 12 or 15 times a day. And it very quickly meant that I had to tell my village or the people close to me what was going on, because I was training and I wasn't showing up. And we worked out that my husband was telling people that I had long COVID, and my sister was telling people that I had vomiting and diarrhea. So the wires were getting a little bit crossed, and I had a couple of close teammates who I was training with messaging saying, are you okay? And they'd check in every day, which was just them being amazing teammates. So I very quickly sort of had to say to them, actually, I want you to know the full story. I'm pregnant and I'm really sick. And I went down and spoke to our own New Zealand doctor, and at that point it was, this will hopefully end at 12 weeks. And the next couple of weeks, it was basically just, I want to say it was over 15 times a day just staring at a bucket. And I really held on to that hope that it was going to end at 12 weeks, and it didn't. So then that was when we, I guess, started trying with different medications, because he was amazing, and he kind of said to me, what's the goal here? Like, do you want to just recover at home, or do you want to be down here, because we can attack this differently depending on what you want to do? And I was really thankful that he said that, because I'd been an elite athlete for 10 years and I just wanted to keep being me. I just wanted to do what was normal. And very quickly he was like, we can get you back down here, you're okay to keep training, and if that's what you want to do, we can keep you training. And him just saying that to me, it kind of got me through my whole pregnancy, because I felt awful, but it gave me a purpose. It gave me a goal. It got me out of bed every morning when I was feeling rubbish. So we tried with different medication. I ended up taking a really high dose of ondansetron, which would limit my vomiting. It never stopped me feeling horrifically nauseous every single day. But as long as I didn't get too overtired, basically I could get through the day. And I came back to training and I trained as much as I could. I committed to going on tour with the rowing team. I raced a regatta at 17 weeks pregnant, and that, in hindsight, I wasn't feeling great, but I'm pleased I did it because it's what gave me purpose and it's what got me up, and it was me being me was kind of what stopped me from being so miserable.
Yeah.
Wow. And you've had your rowing partner, Brooke, with a child 3 months apart. Have you two leaned on each other? You kind of mentioned that you've probably learned a lot from each other, but in good times and hard times, did you sort of share top tips for coping with whether it's pregnancy or raising a child, feeding, sleeping, eating?
Yeah, I guess the most of our information sharing, or the most of us leaning on each other as good friends, was when we were in the boat together, because I was 4 months postpartum when we made the boat together, and we had a big task ahead of us. We had to qualify the boat for the Olympics, and we knew we wanted to do that. And I think probably most of it was just having someone to share that with. And being a new mum and having the Olympics on this ticking timeline ahead of me, we missed out on a lot of... I didn't do any antenatal classes. I didn't get involved in, the space and the play groups and all the things that when time for some people probably slows down into just being a mum, I felt under time pressure, and I felt like I guess my feet were running underneath me. And I can't imagine not having her now, because to show up every morning and to be able to say, this is how my night went, this is how my day went, this is what I'm worried about, this is what I've got questions about. Even if we didn't have an answer for each other sometimes, just being able to have someone to talk to who was in the same place was really amazing. And I think probably it also felt a little bit sacred, because the rest of the rowing team, we're used to being such a tight unit in a family, and I never expected them to understand, and we didn't want them to understand, because part of that team's success is the way we push each other on the water. Mm-hmm. So we weren't asking for any sympathy from any of them, but I guess having our own little unit, which we could say, this is really hard. Like it did feel sacred, and it did feel like we could share that together. And sometimes the rest of the team probably didn't even know, how much we would have communicated before we even arrived at the lake at 7 o'clock. Before Rupert, I would set my alarm for 6:30, roll out of bed, have breakfast, get to rowing to stretch, and it just wasn't like that some days. And, I remember one morning, Brooke and I were both awake at 5 a.m. and she was messaging me saying, Kira's been vomiting all night, I'm not sure what it is, and we're trying to work out, why is that? Is she going to be all good? Can she go to daycare? And Brooke's mum had to drive down to look after Kira that day because she couldn't go to daycare. It was probably, a 50-minute drive. And I remember saying to Brooke, do we need to delay our time getting on the water? Are we still going to make it by 7:30 when everyone else does? And by the time we got on the water, got to rowing, we'd been communicating for 2 hours. I knew Brooke's adrenaline was absolutely through the roof. And to everyone else, we just get on the water like nothing else has happened. And I know she's worried about Kira. I know the second she gets off the water, she's running to her phone to check that Kira's all right. Just, I guess, all the little nuances of days that would maybe go like that we didn't want people to understand, but to be able to have each other in that moment on the water is just what I needed.
It's amazing because you were there for each other in a sacred little space, but being able to validate and hear each other and carry each other like that, where no one else really knew what was going on, probably got you through. Just that, yeah.
And rowing mornings are hard. We're on the water for 2 hours, and there was some mornings where we're really having to go deep and really having to extend ourselves. And there were days when I knew that I hadn't really slept at all. And sometimes we didn't talk about how bad our nights had been until after the session, because the way I would sometimes get through it is thinking, I know what's gone on for me last night, but I'm going to hope that Brooke had a good one, and I'll tell her afterwards in case she didn't. So I think there was sometimes a little bit of us, weighing up. I'll carry you today. You carry me, and it only strengthened, I guess, how much you respect a teammate when, I know that on the bad night she's going to carry me.
Yeah. I think too, like there's so many changes of your body through pregnancy and then birth. And for you both having each other, because you guys would have been in pretty great shape, then you go through that. And then you're having to get back in shape. What was the process like? You've talked about being, early mornings, 2 hours rowing, but what was the process going from after birth being race ready?
Yeah, what else is interesting about high performance sport is that everything is tied to, performance, and that's your bodies as well. So in that postpartum period, we actually had to share things that I didn't imagine needing to share in a high performance environment, body changes and feeding and everything that's going on in that postpartum period. To have to share that with, doctors, coaches, and filter out which bits I should say and which bits I shouldn't say was a really interesting exercise. And I think one of the best things our doctor did was he said, when you give birth, I'm going to leave you to it for 12 weeks because you just need to navigate that yourself. There's so much going on. You need to learn to just be a mum, and everyone's going to be chucking advice at you. Everyone's going to tell you different things, and there's nothing that performance shouldn't be prioritised at any point in that first 12 weeks. You just need to go out and learn to be a mum without anyone down here. And I remember feeling a little bit annoyed about that because in my head I'd sort of mapped out this timeline, and I remember thinking I can probably get on the erg by 8 weeks, and surely they'll want to start, checking my lactate at 11 or 12 weeks. They'll want to start monitoring me. So for him to say, we're just going to, lay right off and leave you to it, I remember thinking, oh, surely you want to check how I'm going. But it actually was one of the best things because I did need it. And it takes all that and more to learn to be a mum. And it gave me time to, I guess, work out, which bits were important and which bits I did need to share and, navigate it in my own time.
Because it can be really hard to slow down, I find, like when you have a baby. How did you find that time? You've gone from all the structure to actually slow down and have a quieter pace for those weeks.
Yeah, I can't say that I feel like I really did.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think I had an element of feeling like I was under time pressure, and I wanted to do what I could. And I remember my midwife, I'd been told that I needed to see a pelvic health specialist, and I'd seen her leading into giving birth, and I needed her to check me off before I got back to any exercise. And again, I felt annoyed because I had Rupert a week late, and she said to me, you can come in 3 weeks after you've given birth. And I had Rupert on December 13th, and I thought, shoot, she's going to be on Christmas break. I need to get in and see my pelvic health specialist. So I did do a sneaky trip onto the rowing machine by myself before I saw her, which was a bit naughty, but I thought, I'm feeling pretty good. I reckon I can just take it slow. And lo and behold, that was the day my midwife decided to drop me off a breast pump. And she came around the back of my house, saw me on the erg. And she said, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to put this here and leave. And I remember that sort of slowed me down a little bit. But I guess he did force me to take it slow in a way, because there's only so much you can do. And I was trying to fit in what I could do in his naps. And there was so many times when the nap wouldn't go to plan, or I'd put him down and think, right, I've got 20 minutes where I can get on the rowing machine now. And then 3 minutes later, he'd wake up, and then 2 minutes later. So there was just, I guess it, without slowing me down, I guess it taught me to just be on his schedule and to have to be okay with that, which he's still teaching me, right? Like I still have to go
That'll
with the
keep
flow.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love a bit of predictability and certainty, and children are great for messing with that.
Yeah,
That's
so I'm still, I guess, using him as a gift of, sometimes it's not about me and it's about him, and that's cool.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for other athlete mums or mums to be wanting to continue a career in sort of a professional sport while they're also trying to juggle motherhood?
The first thing I would say, which I'm always conscious of, I don't want to look like I'm an advocate for people having to rush back in or having to get back to a high performing level quickly, because that's not what it's about. It's about simply being who you want to be and doing what you want. And for me, it was desperately what I wanted, because I knew the games was around the corner. But I would like to think that if somebody wants to do that, then they feel they can do that without any barriers. And I hope that in their sporting environment, they feel supported to do so. I like to think that basically all of our sporting environments in New Zealand now can see that there's space for that. And if they're not finding that, then come and tell me and I'll get someone to sort it out, because we've learnt now that there is space for it. So take your time, but let in who you want to let in. Decide who that is, decide how much information you want to give, decide who you need, and then just roll with the punches and see how it goes.
Awesome.
You and Brooke shared that you wanted to show that you can come back to something, whether it's work, a hobby, sport, and come back and excel, not despite having children, but because you have had children. Can you unpack that a little bit?
That's a bit that often when I talk about it, I feel emotional, because there were so many times, and I'll try not to cry, there were so many times that I said I wanted to do it, not for him, because it was for me, but I wanted to be able to do it saying that I was the best mother to him as possible. And I would have never have done it in spite of him. If at any point along the way I thought I couldn't be the best mother to him, then I simply would have chucked it in. And I know that Brooke felt the same. And we had that conversation often, that if at any point we can't be good mothers, we just chuck it in and that's all good. So it meant that we never, I guess, called it sacrifice. Like, we knew we were making decisions, and I knew there was points along the way where my life was a little out of balance with him, but there was always a short time frame to it, or I could see the end, and I was okay with that, because I knew it was the season or the week for it to need to be like that. But we always came back to the kids come first, and we presented our coach very early on with a slideshow that said our goals was to be Olympic champions, but first we put to be the best mothers that we could be. And he understood that, and he let us be that every single day. And I guess he let us do that by, when they needed to be first, there was no questions asked. No questions asked. You just do what you need to do. So yeah, by the end, I guess I was proud, because Rupert didn't come second, and that's I'd do it again because I didn't have to put him second.
Yeah, love that. It's very, very freeing for families and for mums to look to be able to hold to what's true to them and do a really amazing job of parenting. And I think that will be really helpful for families. I'm always interested as a coach in what parents teach their kids values-wise, but especially in this the realm of competition and winning and losing, because you would have agonised, or you would have some really good stuff in there to cope with both. So what would you hope to teach Rupert or any other children that you have around this area?
I mean, I can already see it in him. Naturally, I think he's going to be competitive, and I can't say that I'm not fiercely competitive. I know that I am, and I think he's going to watch me be that often. But over my sporting career, I have lost a lot of times, and you have to lose, and you have to lose nicely. And I just want him to learn to be a polite and gracious loser, because he needs to know that he will lose.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, yeah.
Is there any sport that you don't want Rupert to try one day? Are you thinking, I'm going to steer him this way and maybe try and close these doors?
No, I think I would just like him to try everything. I mean, I like to say that I'll steer him towards the golf and the tennis and the ones that will make him millions of bucks. But actually, I'm just happy with him doing what he wants. And I think there's such joy for me in team sports, and I would like to see him be a great team member, I guess, and being a great team member is also what teaches you to, take those losses well and take them well for the other people in your team. So yeah, I'm okay with whatever he tries.
At the start of the season, we spoke with Petra Bagast and we talked about having like a word for the year. Like that's something she does. And last year was to delight. She wanted to learn to delight in herself. 2025, do you have a word or something that you're sort of thinking for yourself for this year?
Probably, I'm kind of seeing it as a bit of an adventure, to be honest, because athlete me has spent 10 to 15 years doing the same thing every year to get myself in a condition where I can put out a performance at a World Champs every year. And this year I'm having a rest. I'm being a mum and we're going to do things a bit differently. And I'm enjoying just having time at home with him. And like you say, they slow you down and, things are on his schedule now and I'm learning to be okay with that. And yeah, I think it's a year of just taking an adventure with him and just being a mum and seeing where that takes us together.
That's
awesome.
Neat. I love your curiosity there. So we talk about what we hope that our children will take with them when they leave home and they start their own lives or they travel or get a job or go to uni. What would you hope to see in Rupert and any other child that he's taken from you and Brook into his life as he steps out on his own?
Mm-hmm. It's really important to me that as a young boy he is polite, kind, caring. I don't want to ever compromise on that for him, and I will tell him, I will definitely steer him that that's a priority all the time. But the other thing I'm conscious of, I guess, as a mother to a son, is I would always like him to feel so connected and comfortable to me. I think I always thought I would have a daughter, and coming from a family of 3 girls and knowing how close I feel to my mother, I think when I found out I was having a son, I had an instant fear of I'm going to be the mother of the son. When he one day gets married, there's a different degree, and I hope that he always feels so close to me, and I hope that he knows that it's a no bounds. He's connected to me no matter what, and yeah, I just hope that he understands that closeness forever.
I love that, Lucy, because I'm always hoping to hear that the words of the connection and that they'll kind of loop back to you, because you want them to go out, but you want them to know that home is always and forever a place that they can return. And I think that completes the circle really beautifully.
Yeah, such a beautiful thought of connection. And I found myself getting teary having a son, and just that special connection that you have with each child, and it's always a little bit different. I was thinking too on the fact that we have a team, we have a village, a community helping raise kids. And Lucy had, like you said before, a next level village around her. And I think it's really good because when I had both my kids, I had some great advice of don't even think about getting back in shape for like 9 months. Be kind to yourself. Like go for a walk and do those things, but not with the intent of need to get back to, what I was before. But I think it's really great. We chatted a little bit after with Lucy and she was saying, like everything for her was monitored. She had a nutritionist, she had a doctor, and they were with her the whole way. And when she got back into rowing and she had that morning sickness, they were like, at this particular point, you have to eat this. And they figured out what works. So I just feel like we need to give that a mention in case someone's at home on the couch eating a cookie feeling like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, it's so true that we all kind of thrive and do what we do in life with backstops and support and people who care about us and people who offer to help. And so I think it's just a reminder, we don't do well on our own, and we do really well when we've got the supports in place. So we shouldn't really compare what we're doing with others, because we don't actually know everybody's life and who's in them and who's helping and who's taking over this area and who's making a meal. And let's just be reminded that we all need care and support, and we're all different.
So good. We're well into the new year now, and this is a great time to think of our hopes for our families in 2025. So if you need a hand, maybe creating a plan, need some coaching to set your year out well, get in touch, parentingplace.nz.
Rover. Music, radio, podcasts.